Meeting is yours to open. Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. The Citizens Advisory Committee, the last Citizens Advisory Committee before it becomes the CIC. And we're going to turn to invocation and pledge of allegiance over to the staff.
Okay, we'll begin with our prayer. Bow our heads. We are thankful for the day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing important responsibilities. We ask that you would guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a successful meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Help us to accomplish our goals while displaying your character. Help them to do good, to be honest, to serve others, and to fulfill their obligations to our community. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
We can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Just pretend there's a flag there.
Yes, President.
One moment, please.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, that's not a flag.
Like that way.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if we can go ahead and take roll, make sure that we have a quorum, please.
Richard Farias,
Here.
Lawson Picasso,
Here.
Diana Martinez, here, Frank Gonzalez, Raquel Zapata, Adelita Cantu, John Kelly, Pat Horser, Vanessa Alvarado,
Present.
Steve Bonnet,
Here.
Audra Capsano, here, Bob Zapata,
Here.
and Aaron Stein.
Do we have a quorum? Yes, ma'am. Good. All right. We're going to call this meeting to order, and next on agenda is
update from staff. So quickly, because I know you guys want to get into the meeting, update from staff is last week we went to city council and we presented our new ADP program. I know that we talked about that in length during executive sessions. So that passed last week, just to give you an update. And as a team, we've been trying really hard to get in front of city council and get in front of the county more. And just wanted to update you guys and let you know that we're making great strides in that regard, as well as with the suburban cities. We're setting more meetings, we're getting in front of those people more, and we're making more connections there. Tomorrow, we'll be in Corpus Christi, Texas for the state of the county. It'll be our first event in Corpus since our acquisition. So we'll be there with several of our leaders, introducing them to folks, making sure that they know everybody that they need to be able to get things done in Corpus. So we're really excited about what's being called now CPS South. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Ben's here to talk to us about that. Let's see, next week, we're going to go to the Alamo Area Council of Governments to encourage participation in the CIC. It'll be close to the deadline, but it'll be our last push. The team and I are posting and reposting as often as we can on social media the application to see if maybe we can, at the last week, get more applicants, because as it stands, I think we have 6. So we're needing to get a few more. So I'll be sending out the application via email and sending links to it so that you can post on your social media should you choose, or if you'd like to email it out, you can do that as well. We really appreciate your help and making sure that we have the best, most qualified people that we can to join you, as this is the last meeting that you'll be the CAC. The next meeting we have, you'll be the CIC, which I think is super exciting.
Christina, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, all our positions that we have filled right now, all our city council districts are all full.
Mhm.
So these positions are basically at large, right? Okay, good.
4 of the positions will be filled by the Board of Trustees, and the 1 at-large position will be filled by the Executive Committee.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that during executive session today about the process which that will occur.
So what is ACON? What's their involvement going to be?
Their involvement, we're just going to go, and as we have everyone together in one place, say, this is what we're doing, this is what it is, and if you can help us find the most qualified candidates, if you know anyone that you'd like to apply, please have them do it, and if you have any questions, we're here to answer your questions.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Just so you know, I did notice your ad in the Sunday Express News.
It was quite large.
Very well. It just kind of jumped out.
It did. It was very early when I opened the
Good.
newspaper. It was there.
Yeah.
So our corporate comms team should take credit for that. They did a really good job of putting together a toolkit that we emailed out to county officials and to COSA officials so that they could put it out on their social media and help us with the push as well. Let's see. We have in D2 a community fair on May 23rd. Yesterday, I got a flurry of community fairs in my email. I haven't been able to forward those to you yet, but I'll get that done today. And last but not least, Sunday is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the room. And those of you who have mothers, happy Mother's Day. So we're glad that you're all here with us online and in person today. Thanks for being here. And I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right, now, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting that were sent previously?
Yep.
Yes,
I would just like to make one comment.
Yes, Steve.
I'm okay with the minutes, but, approve. But it seemed like about a year ago, we made a comment about, the minutes where we talked about the committee roundtable discussion. And, and last month, since I wasn't here, I made a point to both watch the video of the meeting and to read thoroughly through the meeting minutes. But I noticed under a committee discussion, it just says, we just talk various subjects, et cetera, et cetera. And it seemed like about a year ago, and it may have been Tom that brought this up because it sounded like something he would have brought up and I'd agree with, because I'm pretty in sync. But he requested that a little more information be presented in the meetings, because typically we bring up subjects that we want to follow up on the previous meetings, or there are subjects that we want to pursue further. And there's a lot of good, so it'd be good just to briefly put in what was discussed. And so if we go back to the minutes and we're looking at things that we need to pursue, that's in the minutes. Now, I think it's particularly important now that we're going with subcommittees, because we can refer some of those subjects directly to the subcommittees. So with that, I move approval of the minutes.
I think that's a very good point to make sure that we're a little bit more elaborate in the minutes as far as what we discuss. Okay, good. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Well, I just did.
Okay, second?
Okay, good.
Okay, Bob. All right, good. The minutes stand is approved. No, all right, we're gonna have our presentation by Ben Jordan. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Go ahead. This is on the acquisition of the South Texas Power Plants.
Yes, so this is Mr. Benjamin Jordan. He's our Senior Director of Business and Economic Development. That's what your email says when you have
Thanks for the promotion.
Please for your next
Feel
check.
free to whatever you want.
No, but seriously, thank you all for having me here today. I just basically got some slides to sort of tee up. You guys have some questions, and I think that's what we'll get to the value add, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. But yeah, I'm Ben Jordan, happy to be here, and had the opportunity at CPS, was given the opportunity to be part of the deal team that was heavily involved in the acquisition. So it's kind of like one of those great place to work things. So it's very exciting to have the opportunity to do it. So thanks for having me. So the next slide. I just want to talk about the recent acquisition in what we're calling CPS Energy South. And so I'm going to touch into what we acquired, just talk a little bit about the assets specifically, and then how this fits into the generation plan, and then open it up for questions. Perfect. Okay, sounds like a plan. So we'll go and talk about, and I know you guys probably saw all the announcements and received communications on what was done. So maybe this is sort of old hat stuff, but we did acquire a portion of Talon Energy. So it was Texas Talon LLC, and that portion of it, Talon, made some decisions to move out of the Texas market for their own business reasons. And so we're like, okay, cool, well, we're interested, right? And so we stepped up to the plate because it's part of our generation plan to decide and evaluate, build versus buy. So it's always been part of the plan. Yes, sir.
Is it okay to ask questions?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm really curious, as part of the 27 plan, this is just something that came up and you all weren't necessarily looking to acquire other sources of power?
I wouldn't-
Or how are you operating on it? Something like this would come up,
Yeah, so
are you
we're,
openly looking at that, or you just got lucky, or what?
great question, Steve. So that's one of the questions I had, like, how does this happen, right? So our financial standing is very solid. And so there's just this organic sort of, there's nothing public about it. These are, since this was a publicly traded company, these are tight discussions. Because there's implications, there's insider trading type information that's involved in these acquisitions. So super tight, but because of our financial standing, we're at the table with some of the JP Morgans of the world, things of that nature, for example. And so we hear about them and they go, hey, CPS. And basically it's organic. It's like, but so to answer your question about the fluidity, so we planned for this, right? So as we're looking at the build versus buy, the speed at which that happened, we're able to set up our financials to be flexible to accommodate if a situation did come up. So it was really in the plan, but who knows? But our financial folks and Corey and team, and the leadership team put that plan together to have the ability to act. And we acted quickly. I mean, this is super fast that we got this acquisition done.
Ben,
If you ask Elaine,
if I could weigh in,
better
just
than I you.
Ben's being very gracious and modest about some teams, so I'll take the opportunity to brag on them. This was a competitive bid process by the seller, so they invited folks to bid. I think that our excellent financial health and rating qualified us to participate. Our ability to move quickly on innovative deals recently also encouraged folks to allow a muni in. We haven't been invited to competitive bid processes in a long time, not because there's anything that wasn't attractive about us, except that municipal utility governance models do not have a reputation of moving super quickly. And so we have shown the market through our ability to move through other complex transactions quickly that we can do it. So we were invited in. And then once we were in, I think that a lot of our socialization of our environmental goals combined with our load growth needs and our ability to think creatively made us the perfect candidate. So a lot of appreciation to the finance team, Corey's team, to the deal team under Elena Ball that Ben has helped working with, and to Rudy for really talking about some of the obstacles that our community is facing and how committed we are to solutioning for them. So I think a lot of it was making ourselves an attractive candidate and getting there and moving really fast. I'll brag if you won't, Ben.
So you're saying as a public entity, it's kind of difficult to get into something like into this bidding process?
It is very, a lot of times, even if you do everything exactly the way an investor-owned utility does it, for us to get our financing approved, given all of our public debt that we offer, getting our board on board and then getting a city owner on board. It is difficult to do that within a 90-day window, for instance, that we were giving to decide if we could close and make the deal. A lot of munis just can't do that.
Yeah, great. So since we're still in the process of buying it, correct? No?
Talon is closed.
Okay.
We have another deal that has been announced but hasn't closed that is separate. Also super exciting, but this one is closed.
So that was it debt bonds that were issued, I guess, or was that just debt, long-term debt, or
The debt that we have outstanding right now.
cover that? In
Yes.
addition to South Texas Nuclear, the 2% is also additional debt that was taken on.
That is a separate deal from Talon,
Yeah.
but for both of these deals, for Talon and for our deal with Constellation Energy, which is South Texas project,
Right.
we are managing through our short-term debt initially, which again, kudos to the financial team for
Yeah, it's a
having
good
a great
idea.
commercial paper program set up and having the availability in our short-term debt. In all likelihood, that will go to long-term debt. That is usually the best for both our customers that are
Right,
paying
yeah.
for it, and in terms of the actual cost to the enterprise to do it. But right now, this was financed with short-term.
So commercial, paper took care of that. So that's good. That's actually good.
It was really good.
Yes.
So in essence, Talon was public, but now it's private since we bought it. And so is there a different process to take something from publicly traded to convert it to private?
In terms of an acquisition from the operational standpoint, it's like purchasing any other operational assets. We convert them to our system. From a legal and regulatory standpoint, there is a lot more steps to move it through, but we came to a great agreement with Talon to facilitate the fastest movement possible.
There's a question online. There's a question online, Ben.
Mhm.
Mr. Stein. I can read it. I think his question is, does city council need to approve purchases of this type/scale, or is that left to the CPS Energy staff and board of trustees?
It's a great governance question. So the rules as they sit right now require approval of certain purchases at this amount. That purchase amount is over the dollar amount when we are talking about products and services. In terms of adding to our generation fleet, the threshold amount is 10%. So if the acquisition increases our generation portfolio by 10% or more, it goes to city council and to the board, to the board, not to city council, to approve. In this case, it was not required, so we did not need board approval to proceed. However, we have kept the board informed, as well as council informed as we moved along the way as our city owner. We would have to go in a transaction like this if we took the short-term debt to long-term debt and issued bonds. Both board and council approval would be required for that debt issuance at that time.
Okay, thanks. That's really interesting. I appreciate the answer.
Any other questions? So this is another difference that I wanted to point out. I mean, you guys can read the slide, but we are right now currently in transition. So to your point, Frank, we closed on the 1st of this month. And so it is ours, right? And it came with some employees, right? which is different, right? And so that's a big deal for us. And, you know, our leadership team went out there. We were very engaged during the pre-close period with the team. So we had boots on the ground from a leadership perspective, you know, letting the employees know, because the employees have been through, I don't know, 3 or 4 different bankruptcies and change of ownership hands. And so they're a little skittish, right? And so they're very, very happy and welcomed us with open arms. And we're continuing the communication. Our HR and, you know, people and culture team has done a phenomenal job of bringing people on board. We already have, you know, we were doing new employee orientation and things of that nature, like day 1. Background checks, all that good stuff. So everyone, you know, like 100% of the employees are on board. I think with the exception of somebody who's chose not to, but that's fine.
But y'all's decision was to retain everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
So when you make an acquisition like this, it's outside of your service area. Does that put more pressure on you to upgrade your transmission lines and things like that?
Well, so being in the ERCOT market, I mean, then quite frankly, the ERCOT's under a lot of pressure right now, and we are a transmission owner. So yep. So we partner with ERCOT. We were actually partially the South Texas, the STEC.
Yes.
I forget what it stands for, but we've got a 50-mile transmission line that we're building right now from the southern region up to the north to help with bringing in additional renewable for wind, things of that nature. So it kind of fits into.
So it ties in with that?
It does tie into.
Okay.
It, yeah. So we do have transmission work that we're doing quite a lot of.
And we did, you know, moving power south to north in ERCOT right now has a lot of congestion. And we did consider that factor when we priced the transaction. So the idea being that you may not be able to move all the power that you need as far north as you need to. That exists for any source right now across the state for every utility. But that was certainly a factor considered when we came up with the right price.
And you've always got an option to sell that power if you want to as well,
Correct.
right?
Correct. And these plants have all been operating as merchant plants for the life of the facilities. And I would say merchant plants are run to make as much money as possible. I think that with us running the plant, we can expect to see improved performance.
Yeah.
So does this plant gonna fall under now that you change your CPS Energy and Laredo, or is it gonna stay the same name?
No, all of it is now branded as CPS Energy.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're asking specifically, did we change like Barney Davis, Nueces Bay, or no, we haven't changed that, but it is branded CPS Energy Day 1.
So we need a representative from Laredo then.
Say it again.
Representative.
We need a representative from Laredo now.
So let's go to the next slide.
But that's not the service area. We're not in the service.
This board is made up of people within the CPS service area.
Right.
But we have reached out to elected officials in the Laredo area as well as in Corpus, just to make the connections in case, we ever need.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of due diligence on the elected official side as part of the acquisition as well, so.
Yeah, that's a good question. So now that we are in like the Nueces area, so I'm coming from Corpus, and so like hurricane season. So if there's ever gonna be like a natural disaster over there, will CPS Energy be able to support that area as well?
And we're working on that right now. As a matter of fact, Jonathan, our VP of security, and I have been going back and forth. I'm from Corpus too.
Yeah.
And I did government relations there.
We love a 361 girly.
That's and I was able to, I worked in a refinery there and I worked for the city of Corpus Christi. And so those connections still stand. And so I've been reaching out to people that I know and reconnecting and saying, okay, so this is what we're doing. And we're a company that's kind of landlocked, not like you guys where, the water's right there.
Right.
So can you speak to my colleague, because we're putting together a hurricane plan and we're starting to ramp that up and we really need your
So because
assistance.
I know that these plans are here to support sustain San Antonio, so but if in the need of a emergency situation, natural disaster situation, we would be able to support them with the energy
I mean, I think so.
assistance.
The short answer is the better run every single plant is, the better supported every community is. But the way ERCOT market works, and this will make every engineer in the room cringe when I explain this, sorry. The ERCOT power market, every power generator in ERCOT sells their energy to ERCOT, and then every power distributor purchases their energy. So it's not like the electrons produced at these plants go to a certain community. Now, moving electrons closer is easier than moving electrons further, so it sort of does, but I do think that making sure that these plants keep running smoothly and they keep supporting the economic growth of the local communities is firmly still very much something that we're dedicated to.
And then that's a great segue into like my next thought of, so now that we have these extra plants, you talked about ERCOT purchasing, so then ERCOT will be able to utilize any like overflow so then there's a return of investment and revenue for us as well. A win-win. Great.
Mhm. Yeah, so just to touch on the assets, I mean, these are in the megawatt values, like you guys are familiar with megawatt values. So it's just kind of a flavor of each unit. So the Barney Davis has two units on there that they'll combined cycle units. And then we've also got the Nueces Bay, which is right next to it as well. And then you've got Laredo, which is the smallest of the plants, but still a plant.
Small money.
That's right. And so right now, all of our, like in ERCOT, I don't know if you guys saw the messaging right now, but all of ERCOT is in a pretty tight window.
And is Laredo landlocked, or is there opportunity to expand that plant?
Is Laredo landlocked?
No, it's off of the Port of Laredo.
Okay, so there's opportunity to grow it if need be, or there's opportunities for it?
There's huge opportunity, not just with Laredo, but Barney and Nueces. The available land around it is, it's special land.
Love a special land.
Barney Davis is, because you're from Corpus, right off of where you're going into Flower Bluff, where you've got that coastline right there off the intercoastal waterway.
Oh,
So
okay,
Barney
yeah.
Davis is there, right by where NAS ends. It's across the street from the airfield in the Flower Bluff ISD. And then the Nueces Bay plant is downtown.
I think Laredo just approved a master plan, communities and a growth plan recently when I was there. And I think McAllen and Corpus are following suit. Because they're all shared the growth, kind of like what we do with Austin and San Antonio.
Perfect. Okay, next slide. If there's any questions. And so to your point, Steve, it's kind of like the generation plan, we just pull some things forward. So you can see some of the dispatch resources in there that we basically pulled forward. And so we're able to execute on that plan a lot sooner. This is a busy slide, and get into it, but essentially we've got the plan out here. There's a lot of markers, mile markers in there about, they tie together with the units that we're closing and what we're bringing online. So we feel like we're very well positioned at the moment. We still have some more work to do on the renewable side, but we're getting there. And we're executing the plan as we see it.
So a question that's being asked a lot by council is if you look at what we're closing, what we're retiring and what we're bringing online, what's the delta between them? And is it a positive or negative?
So right now with the acquisition of the renewables that we're adding, we're in the positive right now. So we're actually a little bit of ahead of the game with some of the renewables as they're coming online. We just have to sort of sync them up, but we're very in line. I think we're quite flat with it right now. It's good.
Does anybody else have any questions online, or we've got both Ben and Shanna here to answer?
Mr. Kelly, did you have a question?
No, I don't think so. I think you explained, my concern was, or my question was, I guess, is how can these folks afford to give up some of their power generation to support our area? But what you're saying is that this is all feeding into the ERCOT market, so it's not that sharp a distinction, I guess, is what I'm hearing. So I think I understand a little bit better how they were able to do that. I guess I would have one other question. I'm not that familiar with the Corpus Christi and Laredo areas. Are these the only power generators that exist in those areas currently, or do they have other power generation?
Yeah, there's others. This is just the part of the Talon entity.
Okay.
Yeah, there's other power generators in the area.
Okay. And y'all had said that Talon in the past had gone through several bankruptcy processes. Are we assuming that we can run these generators efficiently and not face some sort of financial difficulty then?
Okay, so we have in the financial plan, we had our generation folks go down there and do assessments. We also had our insurance providers go down there and do an assessment as well. So we had internal assessments plus third-party assessments that were done on the generation plants to make sure we understood what we were getting into. Like any plants, then these plants they've got another 25 years of life left in them, if not more. And so they weren't in any condition that we're not familiar with providing maintenance to.
Okay, that's my final question I had was, where are these in their life cycle, their expected life cycle? So you're saying they've still got lots of good years ahead of them. Okay, thank you.
And one thing Ben didn't touch on that I do think is an important win for us, as an improvement over our original generation plan that involved building a new plant. In this case, CPS Energy gets the benefit of the additional power, but in terms of environmental impact, this generation resource isn't in Bexar County, which is at a non-attainment status with the EPA and TCEQ. So the emissions from this plant don't have the same limitations that our other resources in Bexar County do, because these home counties are not in non-attainment status. The other benefit that I think is a strong environmental attribute to the transaction is that, again, the benefit to CPS Energy comes without any incremental addition to the existing ERCOT system of any new emissions. So the same amount of emissions that existed statewide weren't added to, but we have more power. So I do think it's in environmental terms, it is a win.
And as we replace things in the plant and upgrade them, the emission levels go down. And Corpus is in what's considered near non-attainment. So they work very, very hard, and there's several organizations, and I was lucky enough to be part of them when I lived there, that are always in constant contact with the EPA, making sure that we stay there, or they stay there, and all of industry comes together to make sure that they police each other and stay in that near non-attainment status.
And maybe another Shannon, maybe kind of talk about maybe something we missed. I know our recent financial Fitch rating went to stable as a result of this. Not just this, but the ability and speed that we're able to execute on this transaction, plus the ability to get rate cases, things of that nature, and kind of adding all that up and the timing of when we meet with our rating agencies. They saw this as a good thing, and they improved this to stable, which is great. So Fitch, that's another good tidbit that will be socialized further.
Yes, even with the additional debt, it looks like a strong move towards executing against our strategic plan to ensure we have enough power at the right cost for our community.
So a literal power move in every sense of the word.
Yes.
You see what Frank did there, everybody?
Thank you, Ben. That was very, very informative, and Shannon as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go into our committee roundtable discussion. Does anyone on the committee have anything they wish to bring forth? Anyone? Go ahead, Steve.
Maybe we'll get into this later when we talk about the subcommittees, if we do talk about the subcommittees. But I think one of the things that I was glad to see this week was the information about the increased share of the South Texas plant that CPS Energy is taking on. I don't think we get enough. I mean, maybe it's not politically correct or not, but we all know in this room that nuclear energy is a big part of our mix, but we never read about that in the news or in the press releases until that little thing came out. It's very important to our mix. I think it's a really good part of our mix in the future too. And so one of the things, and I'm seeing John because he's made this request before too, but one of the things that we've been kind of requesting for a year or so is a chance for this committee or maybe just the future subcommittee to do a trip to the South Texas plant and see the operation up there and kind of understand how important that is to the future of CPS power generation. So I'll add that too, since I just requested that we have something in the committee roundtable discussion about requests for future subjects. That's my request.
That's a good request.
We're gonna talk about that after.
Is that something we can look at, Christina?
Actually, we were looking at taking a tour of one of the facilities here in San Antonio when we do the onboarding process. So that we would do onboarding half the day and then have the other half of the day as a tour. And for people who are already on the board, if you want to go through the process again, just to get the extra information that the team's been working really, really hard to gather, we'd love to have you. And that would probably be at the end of July. So we're still trying to set that up. Because we don't know who's going to be on the committee then. So all of you, of course, but all the extra people, we want to be able to give them advance notice.
Well, thank you for mentioning the onboarding experience, because I think it's very important. We keep doing that.
And I think, if you have the availability to be there, you all are part of the onboarding experience because you'll be working with those people directly and you'll be talking about things that are important to this community. And so the more input you have during the onboarding experience and the better acquainted you can get quickly, I think the better we're going to be able to do our work.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve.
So Chair, I think Dr. Cantu might have a question.
Dr. Cantu?
Yeah, hi everyone. Good morning. Oh, just afternoon. It just turned after 12. So it's a community roundtable. I just wanted to put out there just for discussion and maybe some messaging about talking with our community members. I saw, and I know this is not the messaging coming from CPS, but I saw yesterday where ERCOT put out a message that for today, because of the heat index, that we may be looking at some shortages. They also mentioned that there was scheduled maintenance going on. So I've been hearing from several people in the community saying, oh my God, we're not even in summer and we're already getting this from ERCOT. I'm wondering, is there something else that we can do in terms of messaging to reassure people that, certainly conservation is always good. It's just an idea of conserving energy is good all the time. But I'm just sensing the level of frustration increasing. Again, from the experience we had before when we lost energy and we're getting all these messages from ERCOT, but it's not even summertime. Are there any suggestions or any comments from CPS in terms of better messaging and what we can do as part of this committee to help get that message out?
I think
Thank
Deanna's
you.
gonna answer your question for us.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Unmute her. Oh, she's not.
She's typing. She's typing a message.
And I also just want to say for sure that I know it's not CPS. I know it's coming from ERCOT, so I wanted to be sure to qualify it with that. But again, I don't know if people in the community are making that distinction.
Actually, Dr. Gunther, that email came from us, but it was an ERCOT message. I sent that to you yesterday.
Right.
And so Deanna's gonna come down and talk about the messaging that we do right now, but I do think that, so I was a little concerned as it being only 91 today. The heat index is 101 with the humidity for our area. So a lot of it is unexpected heat, although I don't know how long we can call it unexpected anymore. At some point, we're just gonna have Christmas and then summer. But I do think we are still in the middle of outage season, which is the planned outages for plants. And so when there is, ERCOT issues a day ahead and a 6 day ahead. If you are ever trying to figure out how to fall asleep faster, or you just have a few minutes in your day, if you just Google ERCOT dashboard, they give you pictures, and they show you the demand curve, and then they show you the capacity curve. And the closer they get, and sometimes they're overlapping, bigger problems we have. So right now, because it is outage season and because there's expected to be very low wind today, the time period where the sun goes down, so solar ramps down, but wind isn't expected to ramp up, are always the biggest problems across the entire ERCOT market. That's a different time in summer and in winter, but and it's honestly it's different time when it's hot and when it's cold. It's not summer and winter, it's when it's hot and when it's cold. So the fact that outage season and low wind today is why is it happening so early right now? One of the things that ERCOT does anytime this happens is they immediately go to all of the folks that have scheduled plant outages and say, can you bring them back online today and bring them back up? A lot of plants have a less than 12-hour start time up. So a lot of it they can just plan for and bring some of the plants back online. Some of them they can't. When it impacts CPS Energy, and just as a reminder, when there's a shortage across ERCOT, what they say to all of the participants in ERCOT is, depending upon your percentage of load, your proportionate share of load across the whole market, that's how much they tell you you have to shed load in an emergency. So when we get these notices, we immediately look at our percentage, and then Deanna goes to town with her teams to talk to people across the community. I was just letting them know outage season, no wind is why is it today. But I was just about to go into, so if you want to talk about what we do with our commercial customers when we're worried about conservation and the impact, and then the regular customer messaging. I didn't hit on any of that.
Oh, thank you. So sorry about that. My computer apparently didn't want me to speak. The biggest thing that we will do is we reach out to our community partners that are large commercial customers. A lot of them don't even get any type of financial benefit, but to be a good corporate partner for the city of San Antonio, they will voluntarily do things like move to their backup power, and others will, maybe change their banking hours. We've got a lot of really great partners out there. But on top of that, there will be messaging later on today. We try to, while ERCOT leads the message for the state, for the kind of the condition of the state, we try to figure out how to partner with them, but also to give the message that's appropriate for our community. So that's a fun challenge. So like if you call our call center right now, you will get a message about the importance of conservation on our IVR. Everybody loves how much a phone system works. And so that we'll leverage that. And at the same time, we are going to be kicking off our summer campaign, which is going to continue to build off of the campaign that we've used historically about the color code campaign, trying to make it where we can a little bit more fun and engaging. And we have a little bit more creativity that we have with it, but also to point to the parts that are more serious that we need more attention to in the event that we do see the state get into an issue. So it is really fun and exciting times, but we are trying to find ways to get an effective message out there. I also cringe when I see the social media post that says, "You're not getting 2 degrees out of me, CPS." What I would ask that you help remind our community about is, if you sign up and if we ask you to change your temperature and we send a signal out to your thermostat, you do get a rebate at the end of the season. So a lot of questions, sometimes we get questions on why do you pay commercial customers but not residential customers? That's one way we do pay residential customers. We have a rebate for bring your own thermostat, as well as we do pay at the end of the season for contributions to participate. So if you could get that message out, they can go to our website, they can call us, go to any of our fairs. Those are all posted on our website. Would love to get those invites out to y'all, see y'all there, make sure we're in the places that you'd like us to be at. So the more we get that message out there, that there are opportunities for conservation, and it's not just to help save the state of the grid, but it's also to help people save and control their own bill.
Well, I'm going to say that's why we had no electricity at Arlington Lake this morning. So we did our part.
I have to say, our school partnerships are extremely important to us.
And Deanna's team did a fantastic job last year, in all of the times where we got to full business continuity incident response team stood up because the curves were so overlapping. We got voluntary commitments from enough commercial customers that we knew that even if we were forced to shed the maximum amount of load that we would be required to shed, it would not impact our residential customers, which to me is huge.
That's really huge. And I also a very good, important message to get out because of our community partners that are so much a part and a benefit to us. The one thing I wanted to say, Deanna, when you were talking, and I know it is very time consuming, but social media is a reality of today. Do you have, as part of your department, what do you call those? A quick action response team when you see these types of social media posts? Is CPS able to respond to those, to that individual so that it is seen by everyone?
Yes, Dr. Cantu, thank you very much for that question. I'm very pleased to say that we have doubled the team, so now we have 2 people. But
it is 100% growth rate.
Look at us. And there's a few things that we do. Part of it is I have actually put a team in our control room that speaks customer, so our operators can speak. They speak power, right? They say things like, that was a BO pot. And I can never tell y'all that the outage was caused from a BO pot. I know Melissa can't tell that to anybody. But what they do is they do that translation, because a lot of times I'm like, that doesn't make sense to anyone other than y'all. So we take that, convert it. And so because we have a seat in our control room, they are NERC compliant. So I want to confirm that. They've gone through their training. But they are able to get messages very real time to our different teams. So everything from our managed and military account managers to our community response unit that will roll out wherever there's a large outage, as well as our call center team. So we have more instant ability, plus our social media team, and they stay in constant contact with our field folks so that we can try and get as much real photos where it's appropriate with security and meets all of our safety requirements for us to post online. We do have limitations in what we can do on Nextdoor unless there's a severe outage. Sometimes we can get there. So there are places that have open APIs, other places that don't. So we try to connect there. I'll tell you, I'm trying to be as active as I can on my Ring app. See, someone else's Ring app is going on. We time that. We're continuing to challenge that. It's all manual right now. I'm hoping with our new technology, we can get some automagic into the system, and we're open to any additional opportunities that we have. I would encourage you to like and share. If you're on social, we're on everything from X to Threads. For those who don't know, X used to be Twitter. So
we should then, as a committee then, because I've tried to just bring myself into social media. So there are like LinkedIn, CPS Energy has a social media site there, and we can like CPS Energy, and so we'll get your post and then we can post it to our network as well.
Yes, ma'am. We do have a LinkedIn as well, and we will make sure that we get everybody all of our social media handles, so you can follow us and share what you'd like.
That would be helpful. That would be helpful.
We would appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Cantu.
I think that's good discussion, but I think this is probably the third or maybe the fourth alert that ERCOT's put out, right? So far.
Right.
And I don't think it's going to go away because the way the market's
No, they're
working,
going to
and
be more.
the website's actually pretty good, honestly. So there's reserve capacity that when that comes due, it's going to be like $4,000 a kilowatt hour if somebody wants to put it in the grid, right? So
Yes,
it's just not going to go away.
No, and for reference today, we went from $10 prices yesterday to, we'll expect it to be $400 prices today and $1,000 prices at the
peak
time.
Yeah, the peak.
Now for folks like us that were expected to be long, it is a good thing for our wholesales. But it does highlight the risk of price volatility. And I do think after Uri, ERCOT is extremely conservative in their reserve and capacity projections, meaning they're issuing a whole lot of warnings.
Oh, I see. I got you. So it's just probably the change in how they inform people. And
I think it's both. I think the reserves are tighter than they've ever been. And they're extremely nervous about not giving people enough notice that there's going to be tight reserves.
Yeah, much like voting, communicate early and often is the approach now. So as much as we can. So that's where for us, we're trying to be hand in hand with what does that mean for our community? And then hopefully we can help the city of San Antonio maximize their investment in us as well.
Okay. And this is really a side topic. I don't mean to get into the details here, but I was driving through I-10, Fort Stockton, that whole wind farm area, right? This is when the first warning came out, maybe a month ago or so, 3 weeks ago. And half of those wind turbines were not turning. I can't believe all of them are in maintenance. So I don't know how they control, who controls or who manages that, but I'm thinking they're just kind of there. Well, the prices, we got prices coming up. We'll turn them on whenever I don't know how that works. It just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know who controls that, if it's ERCOT or somebody else, but it seems like when there's demand, there should be more supply. But it's all economics. I know it. It's economics.
And dependent on the weather.
I know we have a hand raised, but I just wanted to ask the question too, because obviously summertime also means that kids and families are going to be at home a lot more, which means that there's going to be a lot more residential use. Are we doing anything with our schools to partner with them to get some type of education out there, like any information of like a PSA of any sorts to send home with the kids so that way their parents see it again, just looking at different touch points and making sure we're communicating?
Yes, thank you, Lawson. That's a great question. We actually partner with any school that will have us. So we try and do a few things. Some is public safety around our power lines. We try and create awareness why balloons are bad. And at the same time of what to do around a gas line. And at the same time, it's conservation. The best age, in case you're curious, to get to children to have them go and make a difference in their household is usually around 4th grade. So we try and target as many classrooms as we can. And fortunately, we do that all year round. But we really trying to emphasize the opportunities people have to go online or call us. We can pull up information online if you don't have access. Come into one of our walk-in centers and we can help educate on specifics that people can do on top of the general information that we share with our schools.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, makes sense.
Every so often I have one of those.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're keeping Lawson.
Put it in the lunchbox, right? Get it in their lunchbox.
Lawson's son comes home and gives her all the information.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, he's a know-it-all, that's for sure. Don't know where he gets that from.
Is there any other topics someone wants to bring for roundtable?
If I can bring up one more.
Yes, Steve.
And I'll tell you, every time I hear ERCOT, I have a reaction and it's not necessarily a good reaction.
Yeah.
But it also got me thinking that we've got a legislative session starting next year. And I think the last session we went through, I think in working with the staff, we were aware of the key issues and how and where CPS Energy is being threatened by the legislature. I would suggest to the staff that especially with, I think the way this committee is changing, that the earlier we can coordinate with you and give you input and get two-way feedback before the session so that we kind of are all in sync when the session starts. And whatever we can do externally and internally to make sure, because I know we're gonna have a lot of panic situations this summer, and that's gonna drive a lot of legislation. And so all I'm saying is the earlier we can start that dialogue and anticipate what our community and CPS's agenda for the legislature is, that would be better. I think that would be really a plus for all of us. Thank you.
Noted. We'll make sure that we get that message if they're not on right now, but to Kathy and Carrie, so that they can maybe provide us with some things we can email you so that you can get a jump on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other topics for roundtable?
Just a side topic, completely off tangent, but kind of related. What happened to our group picture that we took when we went to Austin?
We can definitely send that over to you.
Okay.
I think
Absolutely.
it was posted on
Yeah, we'll send it to the
Facebook
team.
once.
I don't remember, I didn't see it.
Okay.
Thank you. That was
Again, the group text.
Other topics for roundtable?
I'll just chime in and say that I'd like to associate myself with Dr. Cantu's comments earlier. I totally, completely agree with her and the concern that I think we'll see from the public. I also agree with Steve that we need to start early on working with our legislators and trying to address some of the concerns that we had out of the last session. Unfortunately, those guys in the legislature and ladies don't always have all the background information that's necessary to really understand the complexities of ERCOT. So I think anything we can do to think ahead and get ahead of the curve is important. And I couldn't agree more with Dr. Cantu about the concerns I think the public's going to have, especially after we get through what's likely to be a hot summer with other warnings. And, I think we'll have some issues there PR wise.
Duly noted. Anyone else?
I just want to reiterate that as we make the transition from the CAC to the CIC, you'll start to see more and more information from us, like the email you got, the ERCOT email. I don't know how often you got that kind of information, but I think you guys are going to get real tired of hearing from me because I keep emailing you all and I'm like, they're going to hate me. They're going to hate me. But I'd rather you have too much information and not, instead of not having any. So when we get things that we think the staff thinks are pertinent to something that you'd be interested in, or that people that you run into on a daily basis would be interested in, we want to make sure that you have that information. Because to me, the worst thing that could ever happen is for somebody to ask me a question that somebody else had information on and didn't share with me. So we want to over communicate with you, get you the info that we have so that we're all level set, we're all on the same page, and we can have these kind of conversations and all be, together in sync.
Yeah, conversely, as we hear more from you, you'll hear more.
Probably from us. Yes. Yeah, I got some emails back after I sent you the acquisition and I answered all of them. So feel free to reach out to me.
Once we have those PSA media toolkits, please don't hesitate to just include us into those messagings as well.